Hi, PerspectiveWeather.com meteorologist Paul Dorian here on Wednesday, September 4th. Hurricane Dorian continues to pound away at the northeastern coastline of Florida on its way to impacting the Georgia and Carolina coastline over the next 24 hours or so, and then it moves well to the east of the Mid-Atlantic region on Friday. It remains a Category 2 storm this morning. It has picked up a little bit of forward speed, now moving to the north-northwest at 8 miles per hour, and the maximum sustained winds relatively steady over the past 12 hours or so. Latest measurement at 105 miles per hour. Here is a infrared loop over the past couple of hours here. First of all, you can notice that it has picked up speed over the past 12 hours or so. Now about anywhere from 50 to 75 miles off the coastline of Florida here. And there's a little bit of intensification on the west side of the eye here, and some of these squalls are actually impacting the east coast of Florida, especially the northeast coast of Florida, with tropical storm force winds and some torrential rainfall as well. And the whole system is headed towards the Georgia and Carolina coastline, and this particular region right in here will be impacted over the next 24 hours or so as this continues to move to the north-northwest, and then it'll shift more to a northerly direction, and then finally northeasterly direction, probably over the Outer Banks late tomorrow night time frame, and then it gets picked up really by a trough crossing the Great Lakes that will accelerate it to the northeast, well to the east of the Mid-Atlantic region on Friday, and then impacting Nova Scotia later in the weekend on its way to the open waters of the North Atlantic. Well, here's a big picture look at the Atlantic Basin, and we've talked about how the Atlantic Basin tropical season basically runs from August 15th to October 15th, at least on a climatological point of view, reaching a peak somewhere around September 10th. Climatologically speaking, September 10th happens to be the peak of the tropical season, and Mother Nature is certainly living up to the mid-September peak here, it looks like. Right now, not only is Hurricane Dorian still on the map, but now we have two tropical storms, one way out in the Gulf of Mexico, the western edge of the Gulf of Mexico, Fernand. It looks like it'll head right into Mexico over the next 24 hours or so. A new one now, Gabrielle, here out in the eastern Atlantic. Tropical storm, looks like that'll take more of a northwest track out into the open waters of the Atlantic. And of course, we continue to have Dorian here off the northeast coastline. Again, a Category 2 storm this morning. There's another little tropical wave over the middle part of the Atlantic Ocean. That will not amount to much. Let's now take a look at the latest official storm track by the National Hurricane Center. And here it is again. Dorian has picked up some speed, now moving at 8 miles per hour to the north-northwest. It'll gradually change to a northerly direction and then northeasterly direction, and as it gets to higher and higher latitudes, it tends to get faster and faster. It'll accelerate as a pretty impressive trough will cross the Great Lakes by Friday in this fashion here. That will help to not only accelerate it to the northeast, but push it farther and farther away from the coastlines of the Mid-Atlantic and New England. Not to say there won't be some impact down at the Jersey coastline, for example. Certainly can have some 40 to 50 mile per hour wind gusts right along the coast on Friday, but the worst of the impact will remain offshore here in the Mid-Atlantic region and New England as Hurricane Dorian gets pushed farther to the east with this incoming trough. But again, over the next 24 to 36 hours or so, all those along the northeast coastline of Florida, Georgia coastline, South Carolina, and North Carolina, all the way to the Outer Banks, will have quite an impact from Hurricane Dorian. Well, here's the latest look at the radar bands here coming in from Hurricane Dorian all the way into interior Georgia as well as Florida here. And again, the western side of the storm has kind of picked up some intensity over the last 12 to 24 hours or so, and numerous squall lines are passing into even southeastern Georgia now and into the inland areas of Florida. Heavy rain at last hour reported at Cocoa Beach, for example. All those areas along the east central and northeast coastline of Florida can expect gusty squalls over the next several hours. Tropical form winds for sure, and maybe in some cases hurricane force winds right along coastal sections of northeastern Florida. All of this is continuing to move to the north-northwest, and then it'll make a turn to the north. But these bands will certainly slam into the coastal areas of Georgia, South, and North Carolina over the next 24 hours or so. Today is probably the last day of an important impact in the state of Florida. Finally, we can say that Wednesday should see a lot more sunshine showing up along the east coast of Florida as Dorian accelerates to the north and then northeast over the next 24 to 48 hours or so. Well, in terms of severe thunderstorm possibilities later today, this is an outlook from the Storm Prediction Center, and in the northeast U.S. there will be a strong cold frontal system arriving late today, early tonight. That could produce some strong to perhaps severe thunderstorms from D.C. to Philadelphia to New York City all the way up to Boston late in the day and early tonight. That frontal system will usher in much, much cooler air into the Mid-Atlantic region for Thursday and Friday. Also much, much cooler in New England as well. Meanwhile, down the southeast, certainly a possibility of strong to severe thunderstorms associated with Hurricane Dorian all along the coastline from Florida to Georgia to South and North Carolina over the next 24 hours or so. Well, let's walk through last night's 6C GFS model run. This is the current position of Hurricane Dorian, a Cat 2 storm this morning, max sustained winds at 105 miles per hour, impacting with gusty squalls the northeastern coastline of Florida, even into the interior sections of that area, and also into Georgia right now, and certainly an impact coming to the coastal sections of the Carolinas over the next 24 to 36 hours or so. Meanwhile, up in the northeast, a strong cold frontal system approaching the I-95 corridor region later today, early tonight. Let's push forward here, and Hurricane Dorian by early tomorrow, right along the doorstep of the Georgia, South Carolina border region, perhaps just off the coast. Cold front comes through in the northeast, ushers in much, much cooler air tomorrow. High temperatures this afternoon, for example, could reach about 90 degrees in D.C., maybe 87 or so in Philly. Low to mid-70s likely on Thursday, and that chill for this time of the year will continue into Friday as well. And here we go then. The Carolina coastline really can get impacted here with heavy rains and strong winds from Hurricane Dorian. It slides just near the coastline of South Carolina into North Carolina. Not out of the question that it makes landfall briefly, and as it heads towards the Outer Banks. This is the forecast map for Thursday evening. A cool high pressure to the north, and what remains of the hurricane, and still a hurricane at this time, moves right over the Outer Banks of North Carolina later Thursday night into the early morning hours of Friday. Certainly will have a big impact on the Outer Banks. And then trough slides across the Great Lakes on Friday, and that ultimately accelerates the system to the north and east, and it should slide pretty well to the east of the Mid-Atlantic region. However, certainly can be some tropical storm force winds along coastal sections of the Delmarva Peninsula, along New Jersey here, perhaps up to 40 miles per hour or so, even some coastal flooding as it slides off to the north and east. Here's the forecast map. Then finally by Saturday morning, clears out of the Mid-Atlantic region. Comfortable air mass sticks around all weekend long in the Mid-Atlantic and Northeast U.S. And this system pushes towards Nova Scotia by the latter part of the weekend, and then finally out into the open part of the North Atlantic after that. And it has been a long time coming to be able to say that that'll finally move out of the picture as far as the U.S. and Canada are concerned by the latter part of the upcoming weekend. So still a lot going on, especially along the Florida coastline, Georgia and Carolina coastline over the next 24 to to 36 hours or so. Watch out for possible strong storms late today, early tonight in D.C., Philadelphia, New York City, and Boston. That's it for now for PerspectiveWeather.com. I'm meteorologist Paul Dorian.